Push a button. Hi.
Hello and welcome to Church Online with the Ecclesian House. I'm Pastor Bill, and I'm joined as always by Pastor Nooms. What is this on your shirt today, there, Pastor Nooms?
I think it's
What are we
death.
rocking today?
I think it's death. It's a Walmart shirt. Um,
Okay.
this is one of those shirts that I bought because I just needed more graphic tees because I'm at home too much now and wear t-shirts too often. Um,
Just another one of those, huh?
yeah, the fabric's not
Okay.
real great, but it's there, and it was clean and sitting in the corner of my office, so like I didn't want to walk to the bedroom to get a shirt. I want to be
You're
honest.
like, I'll just put this one on.
This
This will be
this one works.
fine.
This one works. The black
Yeah.
only extremely bleaches out my skin. It's no big deal.
It looks fine. You look good. It's good. Yeah, so I am wearing a Favor shirt from the company Favor that I got when I signed up to work with them. Well, not when I signed up to work with them, but when I bought the delivery pack, the cold bag and the pizza delivery
Mhm.
bag and all that. This shirt came with it. But I never actually did any Favor deliveries. So there's that. Um,
And was that because of lack of ability, or was that because of like lack of like groups, or was that because of just they weren't as good as the other ones?
yeah, it was lack of ability to make a profit.
Yeah.
Every other delivery service pays more than Favor does.
Mm.
So it was like, I could spend my time just doing Favor, but then I'd be taking a hit based off of every other option that I had available to me. But it was nice having the delivery bags at cost, a pizza delivery bag and a cold to slash hot bag at cost. So that was awesome. I was happy to get those.
Mhm.
Um, and then be able to use those to go and deliver Uber Eats while I was doing Uber Eats. But then even that, I made less doing that than delivering people. So then I switched, over to exclusively doing people, and then we had a pandemic,
Mhm.
and that's the rest of the story from there. So that's how that went. So we are using a new setup.
We are.
Great.
We are. So this is a new setup. We're using the OBS program, not the modified OBS program we were using, as well as my new computer, which is a lot beefier. Um, and so that is fun. My wife's laptop is still in this room in case I have to, in case everything blows up or something. But it's nice. It's quiet and it's a lot bigger though. I will say that it is. Um, it's a lot taller than Rune Forged was, which was
Mhm.
my previous computer. But it is skinnier, but it is taller. So it's still it's the height of three pop boxes on top of each other. Because I got three new
Oh,
pops that are actually sitting in front, and it's the exact height. So that's how tall it is, and it's
so for those of you out there that collect pops,
you know exactly
you know
how. Yeah,
exactly what he's talking
yeah.
about.
And those that don't, you've seen one. Don't act like you haven't.
But at this point, you've probably seen a pop box.
If you
I'd be
haven't,
surprised if you hadn't.
you really need to crawl out from under whatever rock you are hiding under,
Yeah,
or
because
some
they
other
sell them.
country. I don't know how popular they are in other countries.
Oh, it's a good question. Do they sell
Um,
pops in other countries?
I know they are international. I just don't know how popular pops are in other countries. Because other countries are where we got the ideas from pops. The Japanese culture with their gachas and their, things in contain. I mean, it's very,
Yeah.
very, figures are very popular in other cultures. Um, America was kind of late on the uptick because nerds used to be classified as losers and who wants to do that, and it would never become mainstream, and then all of a sudden someone hiccuped.
Mainstream.
I think someone actually got they found a djinn or all the Infinity Stones and just wished for nerds to become popular, and it just
That's
happened.
not really how the Infinity Stones work, but maybe they found all the Dragon Balls. Found all the Dragon Balls, and they summoned the dragon, and they were like, "I wish for nerdy things to be cool."
Something
And
happened. Something
suddenly
happened.
we got a Deadpool movie, and we got Pops,
It was weird because
and
it really was out of nowhere. It was
yeah,
like it was like those of us in the nerd culture were like, we're losers. It's okay. We don't care.
and then
And then
bam.
all of a sudden it's like, what are e-girls? Like, and now it's much more mainstream, and I'm fine
Mhm.
with it because you don't get the funny looks when you're, you know, walking down the street dressed like a crazy
In your
person.
furry costume.
I don't
All right,
have a furry costume because my wife destroyed my mask because she hates me.
your mask was terrifying.
It wasn't terrifying. It was great. It was a
It was a
gothic.
bunny with piercings.
It was a gothic style, punk-esque Easter bunny. There's nothing wrong with him.
It
He
was
was
terrifying.
amazing. He was amazing.
All right. Well, we've got Zadie and Biggs on Twitch. They've sounded off. They are here. We're glad they're here. There are our regulars on Twitch. So welcome. So glad you're here. And your wife says she didn't like your mask for many reasons. And
So, since she said something about it, we're going to go ahead and bring it up. It was found in the trunk of my old car under the tire, but it was lost. So I would just like to state, and I'm pretty sure y'all heard the groan from the other room slightly on the mic. So I would like to
I
state
heard it.
the reason that there is bitterness in me is not because she didn't like it and made me get rid of it. It's because she hid it and ruined it and then was like, "Oh, I didn't know it was back here." Which it's under the back of a Scion. Like it doesn't just happen. But anyway, that's where the bitterness comes from. We will be 90 years old, cuddling in a nursing home, and I'm gonna be
And
like,
you will
"You
still
remember
bring up that mask.
that time?"
Remember, you said you weren't going to yell on the thing.
I still did. We all know I'm gonna
Remember that
yell on the
time that
thing.
you ruined my mask?
So,
Alrighty. So how's your week been?
week's been good. Sorry, I'm gonna die for a minute. I'll be back. Um, week's been good. Like I mentioned, picked up the new computer, so I spent the last 3 days, resetting up all my environments and all my everything's, and that's been a little crazy. HP Huffle, whatever. I don't even remember what her name is. What is her name on Twitch? Anyway, my little sister. Um, she
She had her birthday this week,
she had
right?
her birthday this weekend, and so we
Two
went
days
out.
ago?
Yep, on Friday. So we went out for that, and that took up part of my weekend, just because I like her or something. Don't tell her. And
Why wouldn't you tell
oh,
her that?
have you met me?
I have.
Okay.
You're a
Um,
loving, gentle, kind, encouraging person. Oh, I'm sorry.
did we
That's
jump?
not your street reputation, is it?
Did we jump time streams again? I know it happens every now and then. Um,
Behind the scenes, you're a loving, caring, gentle person.
she's been in my office too long to get loving, caring, or gentle. But we actually moved the entire office around. Like, the desks have moved because we moved computers, so different computers no longer needed to be sitting in the same places. So I mean, we redid like a whole bunch over the last 2 days, and so it it's been a little crazy. I'll be honest, and I'm tired. But it was good. So there's no like big video game stuff or big work stuff or anything else that happened. Just kind
Hmm.
of I got to hang out all day one day with my sister, my littlest sister, my mom's new fluffy
You
uh,
floof.
Shih Tzu, and that was fun. And you got to talk to her too, because she wouldn't get off my
I
face.
got to meet the Shih Tzu.
Um,
It's nice.
because she didn't get off my face while we were trying to have a conversation. Um, so it was fun.
Floof miser. Your dad says
Usually I call her a floof monster, but you know,
monster.
and she's very bitey because she's a puppy, and
Hmm.
so Tina was trying to do a Snapchat to show one of our other friends the floof monster, and the floof monster bit her in the eyebrow while she was just sitting there with her. And so it went from look how cute this ah, and you're like hee hee. tick, tick. Oh yeah, yeah. I did post something on TikTok, and it is my highest um, TikTok. It got like 500 views. I was like, what? That's
Really?
that's weird. Um, and that shocked me a little because it was kind of out
Five
of nowhere.
hundred.
Yeah, because I don't. I've got what I think that's my ninth or 10th thing I've ever posted. You know, so it's cute. I just wanted something of her somewhere out there before she gets old and then figures out how much more she likes Tina than me, because she likes Zadie more than she likes me, and that's just mean. But that's okay,
That's funny.
because I like Zadie more than I like me, so it makes sense to me. And I'm still hitting the yellow a lot, so I'm gonna turn myself down a smidge,
Okay.
because I'm bouncing into the yellow a whole lot. So if anyone has any sound thoughts, please let us know, because like he said, this is a new setup tonight, and we are relearning. I actually hooked up my nice mic like he has. His pretty mic. Mine's almost as nice, but not as nice. And I hooked it up, and then this morning I broke the thing that holds it in the middle of another meeting. So that was a fun experience. So, how was your week?
My week was good. Um, you know, just living my life, and um I've been kind of disorganized recently, and so I got back reorganized. I got some timers on my phone so I can keep track of, spending this amount of time working on this and this amount of time working on this, making sure I'm not investing too much time into work and not enough time into family, making sure I'm not investing too much time into gaming and not enough time into doing, work around the house. So I, set up some structure, reset up some structure. I used to have a lot of structure, but lately it's just kind of all falling apart. And
Hmm.
so I needed to restructure things. But I got that all restructured, and I filed our I don't even know what to call it. We got an email from the IRS saying they wanted us to file some form of 990, some card thing, and I filed it, and so we're legally done with our 990. Um, but obviously, I'm going to fill out the long form, and I've already started filling out the long form because we believe in transparency and
Hmm.
accountability. So
Yep,
I
yep.
started that this week, filling all that out, and as soon as that's ready, I will submit that to the IRS, and I will post it on our website, and then I will send that over to GuideStar as well, so that anybody looking for nonprofit accountability that can go and see our stuff there too. And then we have actually another person looking at it, so they can let us know if they see something that, I mean, they don't do a lot of that, but sometimes they'll see something and they'll email you and let you know that if something looks off. But so
Yes,
I've
we
been
have
working on
we have
that.
so much overhead nowadays. It's very hard, I know, to do the so
It
it's just
has
so much
dropped
overhead.
it has dropped so low on spending and so low on giving that I feel like it's taking like half the amount of work to do the long form 990 than it did last year, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But our spending went down, and our giving went, what we're coming in is went down too. But we're ending the year with more in our savings than we did the year before. So that's great. That's a good place to get off and running to do ministry and figure out how to do ministry in this new pandemic-ish world. I don't know if there'll be anything with Pride this year. Normally they've opened registration by this time, and all we've gotten so far is we're working on it, trying to figure out what to do. Email we got in January. Nothing about registration on how to go, and for us how to go and love on people in that community. So that's kind of still out there. Not sure what's going on with that. Personally, in my game, we're wrapping up 1 month's battle pass storyline, and then here in a week or two they'll drop the next part of the story, so that's fun. Today our alliance had a merger with another alliance. Really it was more like another alliance kind of fell apart, and they had about 17 out of 70 people still over there, and so we merged together, and so it's gonna be good. Biggs, what is usually Pride? The first time we did Pride, it was in September, and it was miserably hot, and then the next year it was in June, and then because Pride Month is June, that is when Pride is, but there's no telling what's going to happen this year. Last year they didn't have Pride because of COVID, and they tried to take everything online, but there was just so much that all the plans that they tried to do didn't really pan out fully, and that's fine. It's not really that big of a deal. So hopefully the Dallas Pride will figure out a way for us to get together safely and do ministry to all the people who come to Pride every year.
So just as a heads up, Nashville Pride has moved themselves to September for the next year, but they are trying to have their Pride at the Bicentennial Capitol like normal. They're trying to have it in September. They're trying to have the parade and everything. So
well, maybe the church will fly me to Tennessee, and we'll participate in their Pride instead of Dallas Pride, since it doesn't look like Dallas Pride is going to happen.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're actually we might have to look into that, because it looks like they're limiting the amount of things that they normally do, because like the vendors and so it'll be interesting. We can look into it though. You're better at that than I am.
We shouldn't really do hugs. Maybe we can do hugs, and we'll make little packets with like hand sanitizer and hand wipes and stuff in it, and call them hugs. Here, take a hug. And I don't know. Anyway, so that's what's going on in my world, and I think we're sufficiently warmed up. What do you think?
No,
we're not warmed up.
No.
What else do we need to talk about before we jump into the podcast?
Oh, I guess nothing.
Oh. It's up in the air. What's up in the air, Biggs?
What they're going to be doing, I think, is what he means.
Does that say vaccine?
Vaccine. Because a lot of people are basing a lot of stuff on what happens with the vaccine, how many people get vaccinated, the numbers, and they're hoping, okay, if we get to this point of vaccination, then we'll have events, and I think that a lot of places are going that route. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. All right, so let's jump in. My family basically got driven out of our home last week by there being a lack of water. And And so, honestly, it wasn't a drinking issue. It was a flushing issue for us. And we only have one bathroom in the house, and we have, 5 people that currently are potty trained that use bathrooms. And unless I wanted to strap diapers on everyone, we needed a better way to take care of our waste. So we went and lived at my mom's house. Um,
She
and
just made Greg
so
go outside. And then you only had four.
they great and only have 4 people that are potty trained in the house. Right. So then I wrote a podcast, and then there was this switcheroo where God was like, "No, you're doing something else," and you know, we did this instead, and it was circumstances out of my control, and the Holy Spirit was prompting, and so we're revisiting season 2, episode 75, which I personally think is a great episode,
Mhm.
and that's what we are talking about tonight. Hey, Mortis here. Uh, Bull may not be able to watch, he says. Buffers too much here, and it's not loading on YouTube. Oh no, you can't get it to load on YouTube, and it's buffering on Twitch. I'm sorry, Morta. I guess you're
Yeah.
having internet problems out there in your swamp. He lives in a swamp.
Well, not everything in the country has fully recovered from the swath of storms across the nation. I've heard of a couple people. I have a couple people still having internet connection issues in my development team, um,
Mm,
just because of damage to buildings. So
okay.
the Tennessee southeast area was already having issues because of the bombing, and so we had
Oh
everything
yeah.
stitched together and kind of running different places. And
Mm.
then it wasn't fully fixed. It was, operational. And then the snowstorm came through, and I think it might have flipped some of those triggers that they had, you know, botched stuff around. Because I know
Yeah.
I've had some really up and down stuff for a couple of my developers in the southeast, and then some in the north west was having a lot of issues too. So
Mm. Okay.
sadly,
Okay. So we're gonna start with Romans 8:28 because that's really the basis of the concept that we're talking about tonight, right? So Romans chapter 8, verse 28 says, "We know that all things work together for the good of those who love God, who are called according to his purpose." All right. So some people have said that this verse is specifically talking about that these things that work together for good, is more of a macrocosm statement. That is talking about it's the good eternally. It's you're going to live your life and then you're going to step into eternity with God. And that's the good, that you are called according to his purpose. You have faith in him. And so everything's working together to get you ready for that time. Other people, like myself, I like to look at this and I like to imagine that it is more of a microcosm, and that we're talking about a very real and a very intimate interaction with God, where when we put our faith in God and we put our faith in the Holy Spirit, that God is at work in our lives in the areas where we allow him to, in the areas where we actually surrender to his will. He's at work in those areas for our good. He's working on our behalf, right? And so when we look for biblical examples of what we're talking about, in the podcast, I had talked about the story of Joseph, right?
hmm
Jacob's son. Joseph was the youngest of Jacob's sons, and Jacob had thought he wasn't going to be able to have uh, Joseph at all. And through some trickery and through some um, intervention of the Holy Spirit, Joseph is born. And so he's his favorite, and he's his favorite child, and so his brothers are jealous of him. Jacob has a very fine coat of several different colors basically made for him. And I know that doesn't mean much now, but back then, to have a coat of any color at all, meant royalty basically. The process of making the dye or buying the dye and then applying the dye, just one color, was a sign of extreme wealth. But to have a coat that's then made of multiple colors, this is lavish wealth. This is opulence. This is over the top. And so his brothers were very jealous of this love that Jacob had for Joseph. And so they go out one day and they kill a pig and they put the blood on the coat and they throw Joseph in a hole, and then they end up selling him to traders. But they take that bloody coat back to his father, and here, your son was killed by a boar. Basically, like, your love didn't protect him. He may have been your favorite, but ultimately he was an idiot that got himself killed by a boar. So here you go. And then they regretted that for their whole life. They regretted that. But Joseph goes on, and he's chosen to work in the household of a man named Potiphar. Now, Potiphar was a very respected, I don't want to say official, but he was a very respected person in Egypt who had a high political standing. He was well respected by all of the leaders of Egypt and by Pharaoh. Well, in 3 years of working for Potiphar, Joseph then actually becomes the head servant. He works his way up from, I'm a slave that just got bought, to, okay, now all of the household servants answer to Joseph, and all the household affairs are taken care of by Joseph, right? And one day, Potiphar's wife sends all the servants except for Joseph away, and she tries to get him to have some intimate time with her. He refuses. I couldn't do this to my master. You're his wife. Well, she rips her clothing. She frames him for rape. He gets put in jail. He's in jail for the next 10 to 12 years, right? And we're not talking the kind of jail that you're probably thinking of. An Egyptian jail at the time was built rather different. The idea with the Egyptian jails was they were built short so that you could not fully stand, right? And this goes back to the idea that no one's head should ever be higher than the Pharaoh's head. So the level of the prison would have been built at shoulder level of whoever the Pharaoh was when it was built, so that the prisoners were always a head below whatever height Pharaoh was. If Pharaoh sat down, you had to get your head below his head. This is why Pharaoh, when you see Pharaoh's thrones in depictions and things like this, they're always up on a raised pedestal, because when Pharaoh sits down, you don't want to have to behead everyone in the court because they didn't realize that their head had extended above Pharaoh's head. So the seat was raised so that Pharaoh could sit down and everyone's head would still be below his. Pharaoh would walk down from his chair, and if you were taller than Pharaoh, you had to bend down to make sure that you're lower than the Pharaoh, right? And so this is how this prison is. So for 10 to 12 years, Joseph is either walking around like this, or he's walking around like this, or he's crawling around, or, different ways to get around. And so he's doing this, and all the time he's gaining favor with the warden. So he gets sold into slavery and gains favor with the person he gets put under as the slave of. Then he gets framed for rape and he gets put in prison, and he gains the favor of the warden in the prison. Okay? This is this example that we're talking about where God is working on Joseph's behalf
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over, right? And so by the end of this decade, Joseph is now put in charge of the prison, right? The warden says, hey, man, I want you to oversee the prison for me. I'm going to go play a round of golf every day, and you're going to stay here and make sure nobody breaks out, make sure everybody gets fed, make sure everything's going well with the prison, and I am just going to phone this in. I'm not gonna be doing my job anymore. I'm gonna phone this in. You did the job, and I'll take the credit. And so that's what's going on here in this situation. Well, while he's running the prison, these two prisoners have dreams, and they were men that were very close to Pharaoh, and Joseph interprets the dreams. And in the dreams, one of them gets beheaded and one of them gets restored. And so then the one that gets restored gets back close to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh eventually has a dream that he needs interpreted. And he calls all of his people around that are supposed to be these dream interpreters, that are supposed to be these people that can see into the divine. And he asks them what the dream means. And honestly, most people who write commentaries about this section of scripture, they always comment that the dream is easy to interpret, that there's no reason why these men shouldn't have been able to interpret the dream, except for the fact that they don't want to die when they tell Pharaoh the bad news, right? And so this man that Joseph had saved his life, well, not saved his life, but interpreted the dream correctly, and his life was spared, he remembers Joseph. And he says, Pharaoh, there's a man in the prison who interpreted my dream, and I think he can interpret your dream. And so, okay, we'll call him up. And so Joseph comes up, and he interprets the dream. And Pharaoh doesn't have him killed. Pharaoh actually raises him up and puts him now in charge of the nation. Okay, whatever this guy says to do, we need to do it because God says there's a drought coming. And Joseph's got a plan. So we're going to follow Joseph's plan. I don't know if he got it from the Lord. I don't know if he got it out of a fortune cookie. But Joseph has a plan. We're going to follow Joseph's plan. And he's going to save our people from dying in a drought. Now, he gets sold into slavery, and he has favor with Potiphar. He gets framed into prison, and he has favor with the warden.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to interpret a dream, and everybody thinks he's about to get his head cut off. Because, I mean, that's what this Pharaoh does. He gives him the bad news, and he gets put in charge of the whole kingdom. Right? This is God working all things together for the good of those who are called. Right? Joseph had a calling. This is also God putting things together for the good of his father, Jacob. Jacob, who God then renamed Israel. Right? The father of the Jewish faith. Right? And so he's the father of the Jewish faith, and God is working on his behalf too, because when this drought comes, Egypt isn't the only ones that suffer. Everyone in the land, as far as you can travel, suffered from this drought. So Jacob has to send his sons to Egypt to buy grain because of the drought. And lo and behold, who's there to sell them the grain but the brother that they now don't recognize because he's grown up. He's in lavish Egyptian wear. He's got Egyptian makeup on. He's speaking the tongue of the Egyptians instead of the tongue of his father. So they don't know it's him. And so on and so forth. The story goes on. People live happily ever after. No, they don't live happily ever after at all. The people move into Egypt and they reproduce and they reproduce and they reproduce. And then a new Pharaoh takes over and he enslaves them, and they stay slaves for 500, 400, 300, whatever, how many hundreds of years it was. They're then slaves in Egypt, right? And then they leave and cross the desert and look for the promised land, and we get back to macrocosm instead of microcosm, right? So we're talking about a long, drawn out story where God is dealing with people, you know, and we get into all the little finer details, but we're kind of getting off track at this point, talking about the slavery and all of that. So, yeah, Zadie says no, they don't live happily ever after. You're right, Zadie. They didn't live happily ever after. They became slaves and were slaves for hundreds of years, and it was brutal. And then they left, and not a not one person that left Egypt made it to the promised land. All the people that made it to the promised land, well, let me rephrase that. Not one child of Israel that left Egypt made it to the promised land. All the people that made it to the promised land were born in the wilderness or joined the Israelites when they left Egypt. All the adults died off in the desert. They didn't make it. Biggs, did you say wrong?
Yeah, because wasn't Joshua already born?
Joshua was not an Israelite.
True.
You see this later when and
Yeah,
everyone has a
I forgot about that.
dispensation of land, and he doesn't because he's not one of the tribes of Israel.
I forgot he was
Yeah,
outside of.
he was an outsider.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, it was the Israelites who didn't make it, but Joshua did because he wasn't an Israelite.
I forget. Where was he from exactly? Do you
I
remember off the top of
I
your
don't
head?
even think the Bible tells us. I think we only know he wasn't because when they went to bury him, he didn't have land to be buried in. And all of the tribes had their own land to bury their people in. Which honestly is an interesting foreshadowing of Jesus coming to the Jews first and then the Gentiles carrying on the gospel. Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt and then handed over the reins to a non-Jew.
Wasn't he the son of Nun?
The
The,
son of Nun, who was the son of so and so, was the
the
son of
tribe
so and so.
of Ephraim?
There have been people that speculated it was the tribe of Ephraim,
Okay. Hmm.
but that wouldn't make sense because then why wouldn't he have a burial place?
Hmm.
All right. Well, we can talk about that
Yeah.
another time.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll table this and bring it back up. But
The other spy. There was two spies. Who was the other
the other spy
spy?
was Gideon. Wasn't it Gideon?
I don't think it was.
I guess we're talking about this now.
I guess we are. 10 of the 12. Caleb.
That sounds right.
who was of the tribe of Judah. Because the 12 spies, each one was of one of the tribes. Each one was a representation. Each
A
spy was.
representation. It doesn't mean they were necessarily born.
Hmm.
All right, here we go.
Do 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 do. Joshua died at the age of 110. How old was he?
Well, they were in the wilderness for 80 years. So he would have been 30 when they left Egypt.
Joshua is seen as a custodian of the temple, of the tent, tabernacle of meeting. Moses returned. The first time he's talked about is in Numbers. Oh, this is completely wrong. Because that right there, that's not accurate. So I can't trust any of this page. Do, do, do.
Yeah, even if you were adopted into a tribe, then you could represent the tribe. Covenant. Covenant meant more to them than than birth.
So Caleb is actually listed as a Kezanite. Kezazite. So that one, but he is mentioned. See, that's the one problem with names in the Bible. um, is there's a lot of people who share the same names, so sometimes you're like, was that the same one? They buried him in the border of his inheritance in Timareth, which is Mount Ephraim on the north side of the hill. So right on the border of his inheritance is what it says.
Yeah, I see
It's
that.
not a new mic, Biggs. It's the same mic. It just picks up everything it always has. It's just I'm a little louder.
Joshua.
and at the same time they brought the bones of Joseph out. That's in Joshua 24:29.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, this could also be one of those situations where extra biblical plus equals question marks. Um, hmm. We do like facts. We do enjoy digging in. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Might not always be the best for visual, but
Where did I read? Was that it? Here we go. If you turn to Joshua chapter 19, it starts in chapter 18.
mhm.
They're distributing the land between the tribes.
Mhm.
Benjamin, Zebulon, Asher, Naphtali, Dan. Everyone gets an inheritance. Every tribe gets an inheritance.
Mhm.
And then in chapter 19, verse 49, when they had finished distributing the land into its territories, the Israelites gave Joshua, son of Nun, an inheritance among them. By the Lord's command, they gave him the city Timnath Serah in the hill country of Ephraim, which he requested. He rebuilt the city and lived in it. That wasn't his birthright inheritance. They gave it to him after everyone had gotten their territories because he wasn't one of them.
But did he just get an extra one because he requested it? Is my question. Because he is
Gave
listed.
them gave them him an inheritance among them. They gave him an inheritance amongst one of the tribes because he had no inheritance. They wouldn't have to give him an inheritance if he already had an inheritance. There would have been no need. He would have just taken what was his.
Hmm. Well, that answers for Joshua, but that doesn't answer for Caleb. He
Why is there a question about Caleb?
because of his he was the other the twelfth spy that um didn't reject and was from the family of Judah,
Oh.
which I still think. I mean, this is where it gets really fuzzy because whereas I understand what you're saying as a logical step, there are a lot of people who believe that none. I mean, there's a lot of people who have written genealogies tracing none to da 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 da, da and all the way up there.
Yeah, but Nun was a very popular name is the thing.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is popular names are popular names.
CED on YouTube says, not sure what y'all are speaking about. Caleb and Joseph had faith, the others didn't. And you're absolutely right.
Yes.
The 12 spies went out, and Caleb and Joseph had faith, and they came back and they said, you know what? We saw overwhelming forces. We believe the Lord is on our side. But that's not what we're talking about. We somehow got off on the tangent of whether or not Joseph was actually children of of Israel
Yeah.
when they left and went to the desert, and then the question came up of whether or not Caleb was too.
We found a
Um,
giant rabbit hole today, CED.
and
Um,
Joshua, not Joseph, Joshua, and we found there's a scripture in Joshua 19 that talks about Joshua not having an inheritance like the tribes did, and then they had to give him an inheritance among them,
well, it doesn't
and
actually
that's
say
where
he
he is
doesn't
later.
have one. It implies.
It implies that he
Yeah.
doesn't have one, and then they have to give him one or choose to give him one.
Yeah.
Joshua 20. What about Joshua 20, Biggs? Yeah, sanctuary cities set up in Joshua 20.
Do 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 do.
Okay,
Yep, we
Caleb.
rabbit trailed enough for now.
Well, now I'm curious about Caleb.
Well, and it does say that Caleb, according to something I'm looking at, um, that he was son of. Oh, where is it?
Yeah, you're good, CED. Joshua, Joseph, we all do that.
He was a representative of the tribe of Judah, but
Mhm.
that his son of can't I'm not
Ah,
even trying to.
the word Caleb is synonymous with the word dog, and
Yeah.
there's no way. And CED is Morta.
Oh, okay, that makes
Oh,
sense.
or Morath. Are you Morta or Morath? Come on, man. So no self-respecting Israelite would call their son dog
Yeah.
as their name.
So
Um,
he was the son of
so
a guy's name.
there's the belief that he's then
Well,
um,
and that
a
guy
Gentile.
that guy is called a Kezanite in Joshua 14:6 and 14.
Okay, I'm gonna
Um,
look that up. Joshua, what?
14:6 and 14.
14.
Now I'm reading this
6.
off the internet. I didn't actually get to click it yet. So Joshua 14:6 and Joshua 14:14.
Caleb, son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite.
Yeah, and then in Genesis 15:19, the Kezanites are listed as people that lived in Canaan. They're listed in the I've given you this land, but all these people live there currently. So it appears that they were a group that went, yeah, yeah, we're with them. at some
Ooh.
point between Genesis and
This was the same place that the Perizzites, the Amorites,
the
the
Canaanites, yeah,
Girgashites, and the
the
Jebusites
Hittites,
lived.
yeah.
This is not a good list.
No, no. And so I'm pretty sure, like, when Abram or Abraham, whichever time
Abram
period,
at the time.
well, I mean, in some point of his life, this guy's father went, no, 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 we're with them. Um,
Ugh.
we serve them, and Judah
Oh,
went, alright, you can be part of my tribe, you're cool.
Joshua 14. He's like, yeah, come on, that's
Yeah,
cool.
it's fine. They're like, we don't like the rest of them. We believe in your God. Because let's be honest, the Hebrews of old, you know, a lot of, there's there's Israelites that are Israelites because they're, or let's say Jews, overall term, because of faith, and some because of, uh,
Well, grafted in under covenant.
yeah, and so if they followed all the rules, they were grafted in, and so there's a lot of people who were like that, and maybe this family was, so wasn't necessarily bad. Now, granted, the other odd thing about the um, uh, Jewish faith and the Jewish lineage, they track it through the mother, which of course then
Yeah.
isn't listed in
So,
genealogies.
in
So
the preacher's homiletical resource, uh, it brings up an interesting point that in Chronicles, First Chronicles, chapter 2, when it gets to Caleb, it makes no mention of Jephthah or his father Kenaz, but lists Hezron, a son of Hur. So what that means, basically, when you read between the lines, is that Caleb's mother then was a Jew, and Caleb's father was a Kenizzite. So that would be how he gets in the mix. But then he being half Jew, he would have been tolerated.
and that's how you get the name Dog.
That's how you get the name Dog. Well, your father would have to really make his in-laws angry for you to have the name Dog. But yeah, that's how you get the name Dog.
Well, don't you think it's
Um,
pretty easy when you're listed next to the Hittites that you made your? I don't know why
yeah.
my daughter likes you, but you paid the fee, so you
And
okay
then
with them.
him and Joshua were men of great faith,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they came back, and out of the 12 representatives, the 12 spies that went in, they came back and they were great men of faith, which once again plays into the thing I was saying about how beautiful that is that Jesus came and he brought the gospel to the Jews first,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Gentiles picked it up and carried it, right? Just like Moses carried the people out of Egypt, and then it was passed on to Joshua, who we've presented evidence
Yeah.
to lead you to question whether or not he was a Jew, and Caleb, who we've given evidence to prove he was most likely only half Jewish, who then carried them on into the promised land. And it's this great foreshadowing. Now, what we were talking about
Now we'll go back to the actual conversation.
was divine frustration and how we believe, or we choose to believe, we use faith and we choose to believe that God plays a hand in our lives to make things better, to make things work for us, right? And it for good. And it might not always be what we think is good.
I'm letting
What's
you
up?
finish. I'm letting you finish. Go ahead.
But it turns out being ultimately good for us.
So, a point of that, Caleb was on the list. His family is on the list of the real bad people. Like there's worship
Oh
some
yeah.
interesting humans, worship some interesting deities, and yet he was one of the ones because of a decision someone else made to help lead the people. Again, leading back to, sadly, in a very roundabout way, again showing another example of God taking something that was meant for harm, a whole people group who turned their backs on, early, early God at some point, um, and yet he raised his son at least to you know, yeah. So I think that was
Or his mama did. One of them.
one of
One of
them
his
did.
parents raised him up
Someone
right.
did.
Yeah. Somebody raised that boy right.
And didn't he
Okay.
then go in and take certain areas? Like he was like, I don't need anything. I'll go clear my own path. Wasn't he the one who did that and
I don't remember.
cleared out his own cities? I'll have to check. I think he was the one who did that where it was like, no, you guys have done enough. You got your little cities. I'll go clear out a mountain for myself, and just went
I'll go.
and took out a bunch of
I'll go get
people.
my own. I'm
Um,
good.
I could be wrong on that. I'll check. I won't
I think
derail.
I've got a Nephilim back there somewhere on my father's side. A few
No, it
generations
was
back.
it was actually he took out some giants to get there, so it was actually quite the reverse. Um, I'll go take care of some of the ones that got away. Anyway, sorry, I'm not gonna
Okay.
sidetrack us by researching that while we're sitting
So
here.
we're wrapping up now. We're right at 7:30. We usually end at 7:30, but just bear
Sorry.
with us for a few more minutes. We got sidetracked. It was fun, but okay, hold on. Your wife has something to say. She said it on Twitch. She says, so the 12 men went to spy on Canaan. Oh, a song. Why in this song? Why were 10 bad and 2 were good? I don't think we were considered bad in God's eyes for not having enough faith or being afraid. We all go through times when we are scared and unsure. The reason the song calls them bad is because the song is written from the viewpoint of human eyes, not
Yeah.
from the viewpoint of God's eyes. God doesn't see a lack of faith as bad. God sees a lack of faith as, well, I mean, honestly, he sees a lack of faith as a challenge. If we go back and look at his case record, God sees that as a challenge to be overcome. And so the song says they're bad because it's a song written by human beings, and human beings don't see people the way that God does. Okay. So in the podcast, we played a video of Craig Groeschel from Life.Church. And if you didn't watch the podcast, I want to quickly tell the story that he tells in that video. So he wrote a book, and it's called Hope in the Dark. And the book talks about a lot of the struggles that his family's gone through over the years and how they overcame the pain and leaning on the Lord and things like that. And so the book comes out, and it almost immediately sells out, right? And everybody around Craig is, oh, man, that's great. I'm so glad that, your book sold out. That's awesome. And Craig is like down in the dumps. This is not good, guys. It's not good that the book sold out because that means it's not getting into the hands of the people that need it beyond those that just immediately bought it, right? And so, I mean, it's great. It's great that we made sales, but I need it to be available, continuously available, so the people who need the book can get the book, right? And so he's upset. It's sold out for 1 week. It's sold out for 2 weeks. It's sold out for 3 full weeks. For 4 weeks, it's not available in stores, right? The printers can't keep up with the demand to keep it in stock. And he's down in the dumps this whole time. And then later, he finds out about this couple, this young couple in their 30s, Rance and Heather. Okay, so Heather was sick and was facing a lot of physical problems, and she likes to shop online. She liked to buy things online. She'd have them shipped to the house. And then one day, Rance goes out to check the mail. He comes back in, and she has passed away. She's dead. And so she's gone. And then now every day things are coming in that she's ordered, right? One day, 2 weeks after not 2 weeks after she died. She had ordered it 2 weeks before she died, but it was sold out. Now she's dead. Rance goes out to check the mailbox, and here's this book about how to handle life when God is good, but life isn't good. And so Heather was going to die. That's just, sometimes that's the honest truth. Death happens. Death has become an integral part of our life since Adam ate the fruit. That's reality. Mm-hmm. Heather was going to die. Rance was not going to die. And I don't think it was mere coincidence how all of this played out to get that book, that specific book, into the hands of the grieving Rance when his wife passed away. Right? I choose to have faith and belief that God works all things together for the good of those who love him. Mm-hmm. I choose to believe that. So when little things happen like oversleeping or losing my car keys or my water freezing and we have to go stay with my mom, or I have a flat tire, or I get stuck in traffic, I hit all these things that I listed on the podcast, I choose to believe that's God interfering for my good. I don't know what that delay might have created. And now I bring up this example. My wife hates it when I bring up this example, but I bring up this example. The people that survived on September 11th, 2001. There's a whole collection of stories of people that didn't make it to work on time and that saved their life. And every one of them have a story about, I got caught at a red light that I never get caught at. Mm-hmm. I lost my keys. I never lose my keys. The phone rang after I got in the car and I thought, I should really go back in and answer that, when normally I wouldn't have done that. Things like that. Little things that delayed these people just enough that they weren't there in the Twin Towers on 9/11. And the reason my wife hates that is because she says she refuses to believe that God would have saved some people and not saved everyone. And I have two responses. One, death happens. It's going to happen. It happens to everyone. And two, I choose to believe that God tried to intervene in all of those lives. But some people responded and others didn't respond to the tweak. Think about the person that was already in their car and the phone rang and they had a feeling that they needed to go back in and answer the phone. Well, how many people got in their car and the phone rang and they had a feeling, they went, nope, I'm not going to listen to my gut. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go to work. I'm not going to be late for work. It's not going to happen. I got it. It didn't listen to their gut. So I choose to have faith and I choose to believe that God works things together for the good. And this is one of the things that Pastor Craig brought up. He had this big painting. And you can't see the whole painting on the video, but he has this big painting and it's got all this light here and there's all this darkness over here. And he pulls up this little picture frame. And he holds it up in the darkness and he says, if you just focus on what's in the frame, that's a bad day. And it was just the darkness, right? And he goes, but if you bring it over here and you focus it on the light, that's a good day. It's all about how you frame it. Are you going to frame it to where you focus on faith and light? Or are you going to frame it where you focus on the negative?
And interestingly enough, which is kind of funny that this is, you felt the Lord called you to give this message today, to give this so we could talk about it tonight. This morning, um, the one that the sermon that Craig taught, he actually re-referenced the picture and had it on stage and used it as an example again. Uh, didn't tell the full story like you're talking but about the same things. Craig's sermon today, well, this weekend, because anyway,
Yeah.
um, was the same. It was the picture because I had forgotten the picture part when I, you know, read it again.
Hmm.
Because I didn't listen to it this week, I read it, and it was interesting because I, I was like, because when he did it, I went, that's weird. I remember that from before. We've gone over this before, completely forgetting that we've gone over this before as well, and it happens to be, um, and I can, and for Biggs, I can show you on your Spotify how to get Craig's sermons weekly and add it to your podcast list where you listen to ours when you come over this week to bring your bike. So, anyway, side note, because he's like, oh, I need to listen to that, and I can teach you how to on Spotify, so he doesn't have to try to figure it out. But it was,
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that up because it was very interesting, um, how he used the same example, and it was, and I didn't even think about it till you started mentioning it again, and I was like, oh yeah, that was this morning. Wait,
And
so I thought
I
that was
had a whole
interesting.
nother podcast written
So
that I
you,
felt
so God spoke to you and Craig a very similar thing over the last. Hey,
last couple of weeks.
you need to
Yeah.
reteach this thing you already taught. Oh, okay, I
Yeah.
guess. So.
I've always said I'm just a mouthpiece. I am not this is not my podcast. I don't
Mhm.
come up with this stuff. I do my best to follow the Holy Spirit. I'm not completely blind to the fact that I influence it with my points of view, obviously, because I'm a human being. But I do my best to listen to the Holy Spirit and get out of the way.
Mhm.
So,
Which you're
all right.
better at than I am. Let's just say that.
So that's what we have for this week. The new podcast just came out, and it's talking about the foolishness of the gospel. And before you lynch me, because I just called the gospel foolish, I'm in good company calling the gospel foolish. Go listen to the podcast. You'll see what I'm talking about. Um, and you'll enjoy it. And then if I can get the video uploaded, then you can watch it on Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, anywhere that you're watching this when it comes out. You'll enjoy it. I enjoyed writing it and recording it. You'll enjoy listening to it / watching it. Um, yeah, that's all I have for tonight. What's wrong? What
Nothing.
are you making faces for?
So I want to close with something real quick.
Um,
That has nothing to do with the story, because I said I wasn't gonna derail. Um, but uh, in Joshua 14, um, Caleb goes. I'm gonna summarize because it's short. Caleb goes to Joshua, and he says, on the
what
day,
verse?
we're it's the whole passage is 6 through 15 because I'm going to
Okay.
summarize it. Um, he said, I was
You're gonna
40 years old
summarize.
when Moses, the Lord's servant, sent me to scout the land. I brought back an honest report. Moses, skipping down, Moses promised me an inheritance because of it, because we followed. Um, he's 80 at this point. Keep in mind. Uh, as you see, the Lord has kept me alive these 45 years as He promised, since the Lord spoke the word to Moses. I'm still as strong today as I was the day Moses sent me out. My strength for battle and for tasks is as it was. Please give me the hill country the Lord promised me on that day, because you heard that the Akim were there, as well as their large fortified cities. Perhaps the Lord will be with me, and I will drive them out as promised. And later on, um, uh, like if you other parts of Scripture. It says, and it's like his family, his two sons, continue to live there for this day. So this 85-year-old man or 80-year-old man went out and was like, "Hey, that hill, I still want that hill, by the way." And it's
Yeah.
like, I know I'm not technically part of, I'm kind of part of Judah, but I want that hill. And Joshua was like, "Well, yeah, Moses said it." And he went out, and we're not going to get into who the Achaeum were today, because that's a long
The,
story.
the
But
Anakins.
yeah, we won't get into that. But I just wanted to. Caleb was the old man who, in his 80s, went out and took out some strongly fortified cities, as it says, to take back part of the land that the Israelites hadn't yet. So just throwing that out there, that some people are just built different. That faith is faith all the way till old. All right, so now you want to do the thingy? You want to sing the song? Billiam,
Hmm.
do you want to sing the song?
Sure.
I'll let you start.
Just can't help falling in love with you. Oh, not that song?
That's the beginning song.
Oh, yeah, it's the
We're
coming on
doing
song.
the
Oh,
old
30-second buffer
the
song.
exit song, not the end.
Oh, the exit song, not the starting song. Okay.
We're only 20 minutes late already. It's no big deal.
30-second buffer.
Woo!
30-second buffer.
Woo!
30-second buffer.
Woo!
Has it been 30 seconds yet? Of course
No.
not. 30-second buffer.
30-second buffer. 30-second buffer.
Along with us, 30 seconds last. 30-second buffer.
30-second buffer. 30-second buffer.
Yes, 30 seconds is 30 seconds. Stay safe. Have a great week. We love you. We're out.
Love you guys.